Welcome to Land Speed Legends, a podcast talking to the men, the women, the legends that make land speed racing great. Discover the stories of these ordinary people whose passion for land speed racing has made them legendary. And now, here's your host, the Bonneville Belle, the High Boy Honey, the Salt Princess, Allison Volk-Dean.
Here in front of me today is the legendary Bo Burkdoll. Bo has been going to the Bonneville Salt Flats for almost 40 years. After spending years growing up on the salt, Bo was ready to race on the salt. He began racing in 2002, but his days in the driver's seat of his family streamliner ended in 2004 when he crashed at 318 miles per hour. Bo rolled 8 times over a mile, but amazingly walked away from it with only a concussion. After that, he did work for the USFRA, setting up races and starting cars off the line. Currently, he crews for several cars and motorcycles, including the Burkdoll Special. Hang on, this is going to be as fun as seeing your Salt family for the first time in a year. Thank you, Bo, for coming down here. I really do appreciate your time to come do an interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, it's great. So, you grew, like me, you grew up on the salt.
I did.
I always remember you being out there. I loved your guys' streamliner, Pink Thunder. It was such a cool car, especially as a girl out there, you know, like the pink, the bright pink,
yeah.
you know, since your mom picked the color. The girls definitely liked it, but that was always a great car. And you guys were always out there. We were always kind of like running around out there with our bicycles and doing whatnot. But how was it for you growing up on the salt?
Probably about the same as you,
Yeah.
riding our bikes around, trying not to annoy everybody in sight. But yeah, just, I always used to love to go out there as a kid. We always used to look forward to it because we were always, at that time, there was 4 races a year. So the whole summer was spent out at the salt, and with the family. And when the school year started to roll back around, we always tried to get our dad to let us stay out there. And when this, because it overlapped school quite a bit.
Yeah.
And he was always like, no, you guys got to go back to school. And we tried our best to
I know. It was
con
always
him into
like,
letting us stay.
Yeah.
He did a few times, but he was like, no, you got to go get an education. You can't be out here goofing off all the time.
I think it's just as much of an education to be out there, honestly. That's what I tell myself to let my kids miss school anyways. So, but yeah, it was. We had a July meet and an August meet and a September meet. And back then, I even think that October meet, I remember sometimes it was over Halloween, it seemed like. It was pretty late in the year.
It seems like they've moved it the October meet way up in the year.
Yeah.
Now too, so
just to adjust for the weather and whatnot.
Yeah, but I remember being out there. It was like freezing cold in October, but yeah, we just love it.
Yeah,
we still love it being out there.
Yeah, it is, and it was just a great opportunity to be able to grow up out there. I'm thankful that I got it, and I'm sure you're thankful that you got it.
Yeah. And
you've continued on with being out at the salt. With being out there, did you have any cars that you really were like some of your favorite cars out there growing up?
Some of my favorite that I can remember was like Al Teague. I remember we used to always go over to his pit as kids and just stand out of the way, just try not to interrupt. And Al was always laying on the ground, working on the bottom end of the car. And anytime he saw us, he would stop what he was doing and he'd come over and he'd chat with us. And I always just thought that was so awesome of him because he's like the king, so to speak, out there. But yeah, that was one of the main ones, but
that's a big main one.
So many, I always used to love and still do because it still runs George Fields' car. Because that thing, it always made the craziest sounds going by. It sounded like it was ill, and then it'd be like 300, and you're like, whoa, how did that?
What just happened?
Yeah. How did he make that do that? So yeah, those were the main ones that I can remember. Nolan White and Rick White, those guys were kings too, and still are.
Yeah, there was a lot of people. I think of like Don Vesco growing up. I mean, Don Vesco, I'd always hang out with Summer and the Vescos out there. And Don Vesco was kind of just like Summer's crazy uncle, right? Like I didn't even realize how big he was until a little bit later on. I mean, we were just little, and he just had this fun dog named Sideways. And just to know that these are definitely legends that you were hanging out with, but they were so real, and like how Teague was to you, and just was, happy to talk to you and share his knowledge. And
back then, I didn't realize how big the Vesco family was then either, because they're good friends with my dad, and they'd be in each other's pits all the time talking. And like, I remember Don drove the 4-engine Chet Herbert cam car at its first running, and my dad was like, we got to go out there and watch this run Don's driving. And it just never really clicked, like the magnitude of Don and what he had done.
Yeah. And I think there's probably several instances of that was just, there was big things happening, and you just didn't quite realize how big they were.
Being a kid and, just doing kid things, You're
like, but I'm going to go over here on the...
Riding around on usually me and my brothers had some sort of mechanical contraption that we took out there, a dirt bike or a go-kart or something that my dad always said he always used to get a whole bunch of flack from us riding up and down the pits. Haul ass speeds and...
Do something dangerous way out, towards the mountains. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how did we not get in more trouble? But it was a great experience growing up out there. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I always tell people, we didn't go camping, we went to the Salt Flats. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. So I loved it. So as you are growing up on it, I'm assuming you probably start working on and kind of working on your family car, correct?
Yeah, a little here and there. His dad would allow us to, he didn't really let us, when we were younger, help too much. We were like to sit in the cockpit and push the brake pedal while he bled brakes kind of stuff, and fetch tools here and there. But yeah, as we grew older and got more interested, and at that time, later on, he got his own shop, and so we'd work on the car there a lot too. But yeah, so as we grew older, we all of my brothers got really interested in working on it.
All three of you did, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Because, and then, so are you the first one to drive the streamliner, or did... No,
that was out of the family. For my brothers, the first one to drive was my brother BJ.
Okay. And he got in the club in that car?
He got in the club in the Pink Thunder car. And I believe he got in like 95 when he set his record.
Okay.
And then my middle brother, Timmy, he had his option to drive, but at that time he wasn't really interested in driving. And he actually quit going for quite a while when he got, later teenage years and young adult. He kind of lost interest. And then I got the chance to drive it. And
so is this is the first car that you've drove, right? Is the streamliner? Did you drive any other cars before that?
The streamliner was the first competition entry I drove. But before that, in like the early 90s, the USFRA had a junior program, and we had decided to do that too with the old Bluebird streamliner of my dad and grandpa's car that had been retired. So we put a small Briggs & Stratton 5-horse engine together, and me and my brother Timmy drove that, and it ran about 80 miles an hour, as I remember. And I think my dad let us do that just to keep us out of his hair while he was working on the big car.
I'm surprised that didn't cause him more problems.
And it might have too. I've never really asked him if it was more hectic to have us doing that while he was trying to do the streamliner.
I remember doing that too. I remember the Vesco kids were out there, Summer and Ronnie and Calvin, and I did that as well. It was a junior dragster that I raced. I think I remember the junior dragsters, because I remember Vesco's had a Jack Costello looking car, and then we had the old Bluebird, and I don't remember much else that ran those. Yeah. I ran a junior drag. I only did it a couple times though. It wasn't maybe as much as you guys had done, but they didn't run that program for very long out there.
No, I don't think so. I think they only did it a couple of years, and then I think that kind of morphed into the 130, 150 club.
Yeah, which is an awesome thing that USFRA has, which we can talk about later. But yeah, so you get into the streamliner, and what you've licensed up, obviously, and you're looking to you're not looking to get just in the 200-mile-an-hour club, but to get in the 3-chapter as well.
Correct.
Is that the record? Is a 2-club 3-chapter record?
It was a 300-mile-an-hour chapter version of the 2 club.
Yep.
And it was like 332 at the time.
Yeah.
When things didn't go as planned.
Yeah. And let me just really quick explain why I'm thinking about it is that the Bonneville 200-mile-an-hour club, some people will say the 300-mile-an-hour club or the 400-mile-an-hour club, but to just be completely like how it is it's just a chapter of the 200-mile-an-hour club. So if you know, now you're clarified on it, but it's the 300-mile-an-hour chapter and the 400-mile-an-hour chapter of the Bonneville 200-mile-an-hour club. So, which you obviously know that, but...
And I would have been, at that time, been the first of my family to try and get in the 300-mile-an-hour chapter, which still none of us have done yet.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that with the new car that we'll be able to achieve one of those goals.
That would be awesome. I would love to see you guys do that. So you race it, and how many times did you race it? Like, you've obviously licensed up and you had to get your AA license.
Correct.
So, how many years did that take you?
I think it took us about 2 years to do it.
Yeah. And then, so you're getting close. Like, are you pretty close to being on target for a three chapter record at this point? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it took us a couple years to do it because we could only pretty much get 2 runs a day with that car if we could get that.
How come? Why?
Just because of the size of the lines at the time and the maintenance that's needed on the car. Because between when BJ drove to when I drove, it got a whole new drivetrain package. So he drove on a motorcycle engine to get his 2-club entry.
Oh, okay.
And then there was some rotary days that we ran a rotary that didn't work out real well. And then when I started driving, it was small block Chevy powered. So it was a whole new platform.
Yeah, that is.
So between my driver's licenses and proving the new drivetrain out, it took quite some time.
Yeah. And so what was the record that you were running on?
I think it was still the C Fuel record we're running on today.
Okay.
And I think it was right near 332.
Okay. All right. And so at what point in the racing did you crash? Had you gone a few times? Like, have you gone over 300 a few times at this point? Or it was like this your first 300-mile-an-hour pass? This
would be my, when I crashed, it would be my first attempt to get my AA.
Okay. All right. So that's where it happens. And then, man.
Because we were hoping to get my AA. Actually, let me back up. I had got my AA license. Mm-hmm. Because it's up to 3, right? 250 to 3 for AA.
Yes.
So I had got my AA. We were working on getting my unlimited, and we were hoping to get my unlimited and qualify for a record at the same time.
Okay.
When things went south.
Okay. So you're working on your unlimited licensing pass is where you're at.
Yeah.
So you've definitely gone pretty fast at this point to get to the point where you're working on your unlimited.
I think it was about 280 is what I ran when I got my AA.
Mm-hmm. And so we listened to you. If you go back and you can listen to your mom and your dad tell their versions of what things happened, but I'm dying to hear from your version of what happened. So what's going on? You start off the line, or is there anything beforehand that happens that's kind of maybe playing into the story a little bit?
So because of the concussion I got during the crash, I don't remember too much.
Okay.
Other than what the little bit I do remember and what people have told me has happened.
Yeah, let's piece those together.
But I remember I had a really good friend with me out there helping us on the car, and I remember we were towing it up to the start line, and we were in really good spirits that this was going to be that we were going to smash a good run down. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember much of getting suited or in the car. My dad told me after that he pushed me off, and he finished the belt tighten and put the canopy on. And he said right before he locked the canopy, the engine's now running. And he said that he told me to get the record or break it trying. I'm not sure you should have told me the break it trying part, because I done broke it good.
Yeah, no kidding.
But at the first of the run, like, I don't remember much of leading up to things going wrong.
Uh-huh.
But I remember the car trying to go hard right and just trying to get the chutes out.
Oh, yeah. No, that's like just basically what you remember from the actual crash.
Yeah, a little bit. And then I remember just sheer chaos.
Oh, yeah.
Just because
it's violent looking.
I know what happened because of the video that's out there of it.
Yeah.
But from what I remember, I couldn't tell you what was happening in the car.
Yeah.
Just craziness going on, being so scared.
Oh, yeah. So you're conscious somewhat through
I was awake through the whole thing.
Okay, so you never passed out. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I'd be like, please let me pass out.
When it started to crash, it tore the canopy off. So I remember and
salt
at that
everywhere.
time, I used to leave my visor cracked a little bit. And it tore my visor open from the wind. And I remember just the most retarded amount of wind you could imagine.
Man.
And then just sheer chaos.
Oh, that is so scary. You say that you rolled 8 times is what you say. I swear it looks
It could be more.
than that.
I only know from the video and what you can count from the video.
Yeah, and maybe it's just like so intense. I'm like,
so
it looks
fast.
But it is quite a testament to the build of the car and the safety that you guys put into it, that you only walked away with a concussion.
Yeah, and that car had ran, I think, about 20 years to that point with different motor configurations and drivers. And, my dad and my grandpa built it back in the early 80s. So it is a testament to how well it was built.
Yeah.
For me to be able to walk away from something that violent.
Yeah, it was intense.
There's not many people out there that have crashed at that kind of speed and walked away from it.
Right. Yeah. No, it was yes, especially when you go for a mile long.
Yeah.
that's a lot of rolling. So after that, what do you guys do? Do you guys kind of obviously you didn't build a race car right away back, didn't build the new streamliner until later, but you're kind of done for racing for a little bit.
Well,
driving, I should say.
Once we get back after the crash and I get a little healed, we had let the car sit a while without even touching it from the crash. And we then kind of all the crew gathered at the shop and we had to pretty much pry the top of the body off of it.
Oh,
it was so jammed together and it was in 98% of one piece. It had tore a few pieces of the body off, but it was pretty much all complete. We got the body off and started investigating what we had left. And it didn't look bad. The chassis part of it didn't look bad. The body was pretty tore up, but we're fiberglass guys, so we figured we can build a new body. And then while we start investigating, we noticed that there's a pretty deep dent in the plate that covers the head cage.
Uh-huh.
And back in the day, my dad had an engineer tell him that it would take like 90 G's of front impact on that head tube bar to dent that plate. And it had a pretty good, like, couple-inch dent in that plate.
Wow.
And then we did notice the chassis had a twist to it. And we figured we could have fixed it, but we didn't know if it would be safe to have another incident in.
Yeah. If it was just ever going to be the same again.
So because of that, we decided to just save the good pieces and cut all the rest of it up and scrap it away.
Yeah, I think that's pretty wise. What did you guys ever decide what the cause of I can't remember.
We've pretty much figured that it was a mechanical failure on the front steering arm that broke the front steering arm off.
And that's why you got that hard right going.
The way the front suspension was set up, the tires would flop to the outside when they were loose from the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So the left tire is trying to go straight and the right tire is trying to turn the car to the right. And the one left tire couldn't keep it going straight.
Yeah.
I remember trying to fight it to keep it that way.
Yeah.
But because the car's only like 20 inches wide, it tipped over and then started to roll.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I did everything I could from a driver perspective to get the chutes out and just try and save it. But at that point, you're just kind of along for the ride.
Yeah. Just hang on tight. Man.
I can remember during the crash, too, thinking that my dad is going to be pissed.
That's so funny.
I don't know what happened, but I screwed this up, and he's going to be so mad.
My dad's going to be so mad at me after this. I bet she wasn't too mad. He was probably pretty grateful about things. And when I interviewed your mom, I was just like, from a mom's point of view, I was like, I can't even imagine what it would be like to watch it, like to just hear it, to see it, to watch it. Oh,
yeah. And then,
it'd be crazy.
It all happened in front of my mom because she was at timing slips at the 3.5, and it all started at the 3.5. So she watched it all develop in front of her.
I know it would be, she's a strong lady. She's tough though. Your mom's tough.
And my dad, he got to the slip. He'd usually stop at timing slips and get my timing slip before he came down to the car. And so he gets to timing slips and my mom's gone.
And he's like,
and he's like, what is where's Julie? And I think it was Bev, the other lady in there, was like, didn't you get the announcement? Man. Like, Bo crashed, and he said he ran for the truck, and just as fast as his truck would get over there.
Yeah.
And my middle brother, Timmy, he was on scene too. And he said that when my dad got to the scene of the crash, he had the truck sliding sideways and he was jumping out of the door before it came to a stop.
Oh, man.
He said he didn't even look at the car. He just ran right for the ambulance because he was thinking that I was seriously hurt.
Yeah.
So, but luckily I walked away with just a concussion out of that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. That is when you see the crash, which I'll probably post it again on the social media so people can see that. But it is amazing to watch the fact that you just walked away from that basically walked away from it. So, but so after that streamliner, you guys kind of regroup, it sounds like. And what do you guys, after you look at what happened, what did you guys decide to do?
So we decided at that time we were going to go back to motorcycle powered streamliner.
Okay.
Because at that time my mom was against going that fast. She didn't want us any part of going 300 plus.
Sounds like she lost that battle.
And
in the end.
In that time, those smaller engine classes were still pretty attainable. But now they've all been pushed pretty fast. So we started working on development of a similar streamliner that we had, motorcycle engine powered, 250-ish mile an hour. And then my dad was like, I really want a 400 mile an hour timing slip. And then so just over time, it just morphed into the design of what we have now.
Yeah.
With the new car.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. So when your dad told me that in his interview, I was like, really? Like I was, I just didn't know. So it was pretty.
Yeah. My dad's had this dream forever.
Awesome.
So at Speed Week, they give away the Hot Rod Trophy, which is for the fastest one-way speed, and like, I just have brain fade,
Of who got it?
Yeah,
who has it? Like
got it?
Like George Petit or
George Petit's had it, 9 times or something. And so my dad's always hoped he could get his name on that trophy.
Yeah. So with that trophy, do they just do you just keep it for the year?
I think
and then your name goes on it
for the year.
That's cool. Kind of like the hockey trophy.
And there's so many legends on that trophy too. So because they've been doing that trophy, I think since the beginning.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So I haven't seen it up close and personal, but I've heard there's, Tom Birkland and Al Teague and Nolan White and just all them, what I call juggernauts of the day, are on it. Yeah,
that would be amazing. And this is true for almost all of them, but like this amazing thing about your family is that it is truly just like a home built car.
Yeah.
It's a car that you guys, designed and built, and your dad, obviously, your grandpa obviously had some experience in design, but that's what's really neat about your guys' family. All of your cars are really just home built, and it just shows that you don't have to have a ton of access to, I don't know, a lot of money or a lot of sponsors or anything like that to go out there and obtain some goals that you want to obtain.
Well, my dad's new car, it was built in his single car garage at his house.
Right.
I mean, you could almost touch the walls on each side of the garage going in it.
Right.
And the car's built the length it is because that's what fits in the garage.
That's funny.
Yeah, and he pretty much did most of that car on his own in that garage. I mean, me and my brothers did help here and there, but yeah, he fabbed most of that car on his own.
The new car?
The new car, yeah.
And and your dad's older. He's not, I mean, that's amazing that that's the case. And yeah, I just think that is what like I always say this about making land speed racing great, but it is one of the cool things about land speed racing is that people that are maybe listening, that are just listening, that are interested in it, maybe want to do it one day, that it is, you can do it. You don't need, it's not like going and getting in NASCAR or anything like that.
Yeah, there's teams like me in my program where, I'm on a super low budget, but if you do it well, you can compete with the big backed budget teams. And that's what's great about it.
Right.
Is everybody has a chance to enter that history book. Right.
Well, do you remember that? You probably remember that Diesel, I swear it was like JCB Diesel was competing against. Do you remember that at all?
Oh, yeah. With Andy Green driving that Diesel. Yeah,
and it was like this big operation, which is great to have those guys out there too. It's amazing. Andy Green's amazing. Like, he's such a nice guy. But then there was just like a lower like budget guy out there that was trying to race in that same kind of category. Do you remember that?
I think so, yeah.
And he actually got, I think he
set the record first before Andy Green's team got to it.
And which is just like, there was like this little homemade guy, shop guy and this giant, sponsored, I don't know. That thing was huge. They had helicopters and which is great, it's neat. But it was just a stark comparison of like why it is so cool out there. Cause you can just, there's two competing types of people out there, that can make it work. Anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah. So from there, you guys, so your dad's building this car. You kind of take a break from driving a little bit.
Correct. Yeah.
And you kind of start pouring your energy into the other end of racing, which is the workers part, or volunteer part, where you are working with the Utah Salt Flats Racing Association, the USFRA, to you just have some duties and work that you do out there. So what are you doing? How many years have you done that working?
I think I started shortly after the crash year. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to be just a spectator at that point with no car and having competed. But I wanted to still be involved. So I started with just doing cones, just laying thousands of cones out. And I remember you helped us with this a couple years.
Oh my gosh, it's so much work. It's just like tedious. It's like
you're driving like
mind-numbing work.
8 miles an hour, and every couple hundred feet you set a cone out and hope the driver you have knows where they're going, or the cones are going to be put in some random places, which has happened.
Oh yeah.
But so I did that for a while, and while I was doing that, I was also line stewarding the cars, so helping with crews getting in their cars and just making sure they were, pulling up in line and stuff like that, because they had starting officials at that time, and so they didn't need me up on the start line.
Did you start? But did you move up to the starting line eventually?
And then after that, they had moved some people around, and they needed another assistant starter, so I jumped on that.
And who was the head starter?
Monty Whittison, which he's still doing it.
Yeah, he's great.
And so I moved into assistant starter, which I loved. Assistant starting was so much fun. Just you get to talk to all the crews and all the cars, and you get to see all of them run, because they got to leave the start line. Yeah,
and you get to talk to all the drivers and all the crew and even spectators. You'd be really great at that job, because you're like an extrovert type personality, and that would be I would love doing that too, because I'm the same. We're both babies of the family and extroverts, and we just like, I don't know, I just like talk. Yeah, I think that'd be a great job.
Yeah, it's really, I really like starting cars.
Yeah.
And the last, probably 2 years ago, I stepped away from that to I had too many cars to work on
you were crewing.
to crew on that I couldn't do all of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I probably did that 10 years starting cars.
That's awesome. Did you have anybody in particular that when they came up, you're like, yes, like I love talking to them, or I love seeing them, or watching them take off, or anything that anyone in particular?
The ones that stand out are starting George and Tom Birkland, starting those guys.
That'd be pretty memorable.
And Tom and Rex Sabota.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are real memorable ones.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that I can't put names to, but I know who they are, and but yeah, it's really enjoyable. Even though you're out in the sun and you're on your feet all day.
Oh, I bet you're so tired by the end of the day. Just exhausted.
Oh yeah, I'd end up back at camp and have our energy to eat dinner.
Yeah.
And then I was pretty much out.
I bet. Yeah, it's even just being out there just in a pit, it's exhausting, even though it doesn't seem like you're doing a lot, but by the end of the day, you're just like done. You have enough energy to go home and eat and crash.
It's pretty cool too, because a lot of the crews, they'll come up and they have a water for you, and they chat with you before you do the starting line duties that you got to do. But yeah, so it's pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Just a big family too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, just excited to see everyone, see people that you haven't seen in a while come up to the starting line and be like, hey,
Yeah, and then the ones that have qualified for their records and the next morning are so excited to make their return runs too.
Yeah.
And you get a share in that with them to make their return runs. And
that would be fun too. There's an excitement to that in the morning when people are and the parade that goes down to the starting line. There's just an energy to that probably that you can't bottle. But so from there you move on. You walk away from your duties as starting because you're crewing for too many people and you're helping too many people out. So what was the first one that you started working on of the crews or of the cars?
So the first one I started crewing for would be Chad Zupin and his Roadster.
Okay.
It was when I started helping him, he had an old NASCAR V6 engine in it. Mm-hmm. And we were trying to get it to run like 230. And it would always just like 220. And we never could get it to cross the peak to get it to where he wanted it to go. Mm. And then the current Roadster he has is his second Roadster.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Dennis Sullivan bought his first Roadster, the president of the USFRA. That's Chad and his dad's first car.
Okay, the one that's the USFRA club car?
No, the gold and black one.
Yeah.
That Dennis drives.
Okay.
So,
yes,
since we couldn't get the V6 to run fast enough, Chad said, I want to go back to Pinto motor because he used to run those in the first car. And I was like, okay, I'm down for whatever you want to do. So we start running the Pinto motor, and he gets married at the time, and his wife she loves it too.
Yeah,
which is good to have. And then Chad says he wants to start running the nitro, and we start walking around the pits to start. We asked everybody we could find tips on running the nitro, and they all had a little bit for us, but not really what we were looking for. And Chad kind of figured it out on his own. And then, that car got him in the 2 club with the Pinto motor in it.
Yeah.
And it set a record with his wife in it.
Yeah. And now Chad's the one that people go to ask about nitro.
Oh, yeah. I've now started running the nitro in my car too. And he's helped me tremendously on getting the car tuned and just to make it figured out. And, we made the one nitro mistake a couple years ago and backfired it on the start line. So, whoops. So I help him with that. And then my brother BJ, we get this crazy idea to build this S10 with a motorcycle engine in it. And we built it for a family friend that Jay Hawley. He had crewed for us on the pink car, and he had followed Salt Flats since the newsreel days. Mm-hmm. And he always wanted to drive a car, but never wanted to go streamliner speeds. And then he got MS, and then he was like, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to drive. So we built this S10 in secret with help from his wife. We built everything we could on the car, and we started 4 months before the speed week. And we built everything we could till we needed him to be in the cockpit. And he had no idea this was going on.
You're kidding me. So that's crazy.
Every year my brother does in October, he does a birthday party / open house at his shop. So we have the truck. It's mostly a race car, and we have it covered. And at this time, it still had roll-up windows in it. And we had put Jay's name on the window as the driver, but we rolled the window down. And we made this plan that I would climb in and sit in the seat. And then my brother BJ would make a speech about how, we haven't driven a car since the incident I had, and we were going to return to driving with this S10 pickup. And we pulled the cover off, and everybody's there, and I'm sitting in it, and everybody's like, all right, Bo's going to get to drive again. And then I roll up the window, and it's got Jay's name on it. And it was pretty cool time.
That's so neat.
And then he drove, and the record started out at like 88 miles an hour. And they set a record every day they could at Speed Week, the first year they ran it. And they moved the record to like 135.
Oh, wow. That's a big, I know that's not like big numbers you're working with, but that is still amazing in that people get to go, and maybe you don't want to go 200 miles an hour. Maybe you don't want to go 300 miles an hour, but you do want to set records, and you do want to push your knowledge or your mechanic skills or whatnot, and that you can do that. There's still that opportunity out there.
It might not be 400, but it's still in the same record book as those 400 records. So
that's right. It's
still pretty prestigious to set those records.
Yeah.
And then after Jay drove, his wife Mary she was like, I want to do it too. So we decided that we didn't want to run them both on the same record, because we didn't want to erase Jay's name out of the book by putting his wife Mary in it. So we made the truck supercharged and put it in the supercharged class, because the truck at that time had gone faster naturally aspirated than the supercharged record. So we figured, this is a gimme. Put a supercharger on it, and she set the record at like 130 something miles an hour in the blown class. Mm-hmm. And they set a couple of records, and it was during World of Speed. And on one of the return runs, it decided the engine had enough, and it blew up.
It was dead.
But so she set some records in that project too, which was really good. And then BJ got back in and started driving again, and he bumped the records a few years later, even faster.
Yeah,
so,
that seems like a fun little truck to run.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk him out to get it dusted off and get it back out, and let my nephew, his oldest son, drive.
Yeah,
his oldest son's pretty interested in driving, so I'm hoping
That'd be a great little truck those trucks are pretty.
Yeah,
solid. It'd be a great little car.
It needs a little bit of work because BJ spun it out and it twisted some things up on the chassis, but it's nothing that we can't fix. And
yeah.
So we do that program, and kind of at the same time, I've started fabricating the Monza that I run.
Okay. And so what, the Monza, when did you start doing this? Start running the Monza?
I started running the Monza in 2012.
Okay.
And it runs a little V4 Chevrolet that I concocted out of a V8. Because at the time I started building, there was no F engine class record. And at one of the USFRA...
What class is it in? Sorry, what class are you in?
I'm in F Classic Fuel Altered.
Okay, Classic Fuel Altered. There was no F Classic Fuel Altered.
At that time, no. And F is up to 183 cubic inches.
Okay.
So I figured out how to build this. Tom Birkland helped me design or figure out how to build the engine because he had done one out of a Hemi. And then one year at the USFRA Christmas party in Wendover, I may have been drinking a little too much at the time, and told Robbie Cohn, because he ran the same class with another Monza, I kind of told him how to build the engine and what I was going to do. And he showed up the next year and set the record with it.
You're like, Robbie, come on.
And that's currently the record I've been chasing ever since.
Oh, you learned your lesson then. Maybe
and then in 20, well, let's see, when the last time we ran? 21? Yeah. Yeah, in 21, it ran a 1/10 of a mile an hour slow of qualifying on a record.
Oh, shoot.
And then we put some more nitro in it to try and get it to go a little faster, and it was shutting the fuel shut off during the run. So we adjusted that, fixed that, and we got back up in line, and it had some nitro left in it, and it backfired the engine and bent some intake butterflies and screwed some stuff up. And so we haven't been, since all this year was canceled, haven't been back to try it again.
So you were all ready for this year to go?
It's in the box and ready to go. I was inspected and had a tune-up in it at Speed Week and was ready to push it in line on Saturday morning when the rains came.
I know. Darn it. That was crazy this year. So at least you don't have to work as hard this year.
I'm working on a hot rod project while I got some downtime.
Yeah, there you go. What's the hot rod?
I'm taking an old Salt Flats 32 3-window, and I'm making it a street car.
Oh, cool.
But it will still have the race car look.
Okay. So this isn't that one. I saw on your Facebook, like maybe the black one with the flames.
One?
Okay, it is. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
It's a family friend that used to crew for us, Dan Hostetter. It's his old car, and he did it as a test in aerodynamics. So it started as a bone stock 32 body, and then every year he made one aerodynamic change to it.
Interesting.
So like the first year, he painted his street car identical to it. So the first year they were complete clones.
Yeah, it looks like a street car paint job when you look at it. Yeah.
And so he did that, and then the second year he'd like chop the top, and he never would make any horsepower changes or gear changes because he was just testing aerodynamics. And then the third year he sectioned the center of the body out, and then I think it started about 125 miles an hour. And then after the third year, he built his own body. Out of a foam block, and then he like narrowed the cockpit to like F-16 cockpit, and every year for 12 years it morphed into this streamlined car.
That's crazy. So that's what it is now.
Yeah, and when he took the chopped and sectioned body off, he just stored it away. And then I finally was able to talk him out of it a couple of years ago to build this street car with.
Cool.
And then he stores the race car in a box in his backyard, and because it did what it was supposed to do.
Interesting. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty patient just to change one thing a year to see how it changes the speed. I think it ran like 175 at the end. And so did he get faster every year? Just every making those changes?
A couple miles an hour faster.
Crazy. That's pretty cool.
And he always had these like other aero tricks he would do to it. Like he put this like crazy scoop around the windshield to try and get the air to blow around the windshield and stuff like that. He was testing too.
And was he just doing it just to see?
Yeah, just to do this test in aerodynamics. One year it was qualified on a record, and he wouldn't go to impound. We tried and tried to get it, and he was like, "No, I'm not here to set a record."
Is he like writing this information down? Okay, good.
I think he wrote a book about it.
Okay, good. I'm like, what? It has to be something. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, well then, I like that. So you bought hot rods are good endeavors too. Go build a hot rod. And then what about the Chuck's car that you drove that, right?
Yeah.
This Le Mans. Is that right?
Chuck Whiteman, the old chief inspector for the USFRA, he unfortunately passed in 2020. And his brother came to me and asked me if I would caretake of the car. And it's a 66 Pontiac Tempest. And Bob, his brother, Bob didn't feel like he could handle the car on his own. So I took the car, and it was pretty much ready to race when we we brought it to the house, and I was pretty much just sitting on it in the garage. And I had entered Speed Week in 2020, but my car wasn't ready. And I was talking to Bob, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I was like, I think I'm going to have to sell my entry. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, take the Pontiac. Go race the Pontiac.
Oh, so it's a Pontiac.
It's a Pontiac
Okay.
GTO.
Okay.
Well, it's a Tempest, but it's a GTO.
Yeah.
So he told me, he's like, just take Chuck's car and go run. I was like, are you sure? Like, and he's like, he always said that he wanted you to drive. So go drive. So we take it to Speed Week in 2020, and it ran 183, and Chuck ran 189 in it.
Mm.
And
what's the class?
It's in A classic gas altered.
Okay.
And it's got like a 250 record.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was the minimum?
It's a Gary Spencer record. And
okay.
It's pretty stout.
Yeah.
But Chuck always wanted the car to go 200. Just a Pontiac engine, Pontiac car, run 200. So that's currently what we're working with. We ran it in 21. We ran it, and unfortunately, with me behind the wheel, it blew the engine up at the first mile. Mm. But we have since we added some cubic inches to the new engine, so it's got 495 cubic inch Pontiac in it now. And when there's a race, it'll be ready to run again. And I'm going to step out of the driver's seat, and one of Chuck's good friends, Aaron, is going to step in, and he's going to drive and start his driving duties.
Cool.
So we'll have to do all his license runs in it and all that.
Cool.
So yeah, we do that.
So that's kind of where you're at, is just crewing on all these different cars, and then I after the Roadster with Chad, he decided he wanted to run motorcycle. Oh yeah.
So I help him here and there when I can. I'm pretty much just moral support for that bike project, because he runs the same events I do, so it's really hard to crew for him at the same time.
Yeah. And motorcycles don't seem to need as many people to run as cars do. I
think that's why he chose to do the motorcycle, because, he'd gotten married, and he had a daughter. Yeah. And so he's like, man, I don't have enough crew to run a car, and I don't want to put all my family through this right now. So and the motorcycle, it's been like 120 or something on a little 250cc engine.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's cool.
And they have a lot of fun with it. My brother helps him out a whole bunch with that project.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys have your hands in everything.
I crew chief for my dad's car now.
Yeah, so that's kind of where you're at currently, is you're crew chiefing for the car.
Yeah, when I'm
the
not,
new streamliner.
When I'm not physically driving my own car, I crew chief for my dad. So we went out last year at the Test and Tune event. Let's back up. My dad drove at Speed Week in 2020. Mm-hmm. He drove it a couple of times, because 10 years of work, get him in the driver's seat, and I don't fit, so...
Yeah, it's pretty small. I mean, it's smaller than the other
It's a tight little car. Mm-hmm. And so he drove, and I think it went like 176 with my dad driving. Mm-hmm. Then we come home, and we're just kind of humming and hawing about what we're going to do. And my brother Timmy, who had never wanted to drive before, he said, I'd like to drive. And so my dad, okay, let's put you in the driver's seat. So I crew chief for Timmy and my dad in that car, and it ran at the Test and Tune meet. We ran 210 on 25% throttle, and the car's, designed to run 400. So there's a bunch of potential left in it. We unfortunately didn't know we burned the engine up at the test event. So we're currently building a new small block for it, but we'll be ready for whenever the next race happens.
Yeah. And so is Timmy racing next, or is your dad going to try to?
No, we're going to leave Timmy in the driver's seat, try and get the 330 record with it. Uh-huh. And then once my brother Timmy successfully completes a record, we then are going to try and get my dad back in the seat and try and get my dad that 400 mile an hour run.
Crazy.
So
That'll be crazy. Well, you definitely have your hands in a lot of different cars here, and you're doing a lot. Is there anything else that you have, like, future that you're planning to do?
I'd really like to have my Monza set that 174 record and put me in the 200 mile an hour club.
What's the minimum on that?
That car doesn't have a minimum.
Oh, so it's a 200. Okay,
I think because it never showed in the book, they never thought it was a record, so it kind of slipped through the cracks of the minimums.
Just keep it quiet.
Yeah. So
some cars don't have minimums. It's just or motorcycles. It's just an open record.
I think if I can get it to run anything over 2, that should do enough for me to get in. I'd like to do that.
So you want to get in the club as one of the.
I've wanted to get in the club since as long as I can remember.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, there's quite a few people like we know that are in it, but it's such a prestigious club that, you know, and both my mom and dad, my older brother are in it, and now our good friend Chad Zupin's in it, and I'm just sitting here just biding my time.
Well, it's not always as easy as it seems. You know, it's not easy. So, I mean, for some people it is. It takes, you know, a year or two, and for some people it takes a lot of years, and that's just what makes it. It'll make it even the more sweeter when you get it. Figuring
out my V4 and how to get it to make power and get to run has been a kind of a steep learning curve on that car.
Yeah.
And I think we finally have it figured out that it will run the speed we want.
Great.
And I'd really like to, because at the USFRA, they give away the fast lady, fast woman trophy. Mm-hmm. I'd really like to have somebody drive my car to try and go after that record.
That'd be cool.
I think that'd be really cool to
get the fast lady.
Yeah, to set a fast lady trophy in it. So
yeah, cool. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to add to that we had not talked about, or anything else?
No, I think we covered more than I had thought about originally. So
well, good. I'm glad I got you talking and thinking a little bit more. Well,
that's one thing I'm good at is I sure talk a lot.
Yeah. Well, so hopefully next year we have a race and that the salt's good enough. And I just want to always remind everyone to go to SaveTheSalt.org. They need your help more than ever. You can donate money. You can buy a shirt. The end goal is this 10-year pumping project where we're trying to get 206 million tons of salt byproduct from the south side of I-80 to the salt side of I-80, which is the north side, where the Salt Flats is. And in order to get this accomplished, we need help from the state government, federal government, Save the Salt, and the mine. The federal government is holding up this process, so please let Congressman Chris Stewart, who's that district the Salt Flats is in, and your federal congressman know you would like them to support the Salt Restoration Project. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it, share it, and consider giving it a review and rating. Please go follow me on Instagram and Facebook pages under Land Speed Legends. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening to Land Speed Legends. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, keep up with the show on Facebook and Instagram under Land Speed Legends. Until next time.